I think so often anglers underestimate how effective trolling crankbaits can be early in the year. Especially trolling crankbaits in shallow water can be a phenomenal presentation for catching walleyes early in the spring. Where we're at today on Devil's Lake, people like to pitch crankbaits, they like to pitch soft plastics or slip bobber. All those presentations work extremely well and they all have a time and place, but one of my favorite things to do, one of the most effective things I've ever discovered for catching these early season fish is when they're tucked tight to that break line and they're not lifting up in the water column, you just got to keep that bait down in front of those fish for long periods of time when you have a tougher bite. Surprisingly, I've done really well trolling crankbaits this time of the year, and a lot of times it's just those tougher bites where pitching isn't working, where slip bobber's not working, where you just have to cover a little bit of water, find these fish, are scattered out, but they're really specific depth-wise. That's when this trolling pattern really shines. All right, come on up here. Oh yeah, this is a big walleye. Come on up here. Just keep them coming. Oh yeah, there's a beautiful walleye. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah, these big females especially, they just love coming up on these sand beaches. These fish are just sun tanning. That sun can just hit their backs. Come on up here. Oh yeah, great fish. A lot of these flat, calm days early in the year, like to look for sand and just these big shallow flats. There. Great way to start. But yeah, I love these patterns. I mean, these fish are just coming up onto these spots, and I don't know so much if they're eating, but one thing I can say is that they're coming up on these spots to increase their metabolism. These fish are just coming up to just warm up, and it's a great spot to look for fish. Just a great walleye right there. The bait that we're using here is just a favorite bait of mine. This is a Selmo SDR bullhead, and a lot of people are familiar with the Hornets. It's more of a short, compact bait. This is just a wider, slender bait. I've just fallen in love with this lure here over the last few years. It's definitely one of my favorite go-to lures for walleyes. All right. It is obviously a lot easier when you have a couple people in the boat, or you can just run 2 planer boards out each side of the boat, or you can run a couple of lines right behind the boat. There we go, another respectable walleye. Just gotta get the net here. There we go. There we go. Another great walleye. Where we're finding those, where we started out fishing further up the bank, we've been just working our way down, and what I anticipate is this wind continues to build. We'll end up on a wind-blown shoreline somewhere, so I'm just waiting for it to pick up here and kind of hoping that it gets these fish going a little bit too. Acting like a walleye. Yeah, this is a respectable fish. These fish are nice and healthy looking. That means that they've been eating since the spawn, which is a good thing. But yeah, great walleye. That's a good sign. If they've been eating since then, that means they're gonna bite your lure. So I always look at that as a good omen. All right. There's a fish. Acting like a walleye. Oh yeah, look at there. Nothing wrong with that there. Kind of see here. See that algae on the bill here, these baits. When you run them on a short amount of line, they just run straight up and down, but they put off a lot of vibration in the water. And so you can imagine, you can see here, we're running these deep diving baits on a short amount of line. They're gonna run nose down and tail up, and so that's what the fish are gonna see, is that profile. It's gonna be a little bit bigger profile than when it runs horizontal, but you can just see how much bigger of a target that is. But there's a lot of times, especially on Devil's Lake and a lot of places, where running these deep divers on a short amount of line, even when you're fishing shallow water, It really is the ticket. And a lot of times they catch a lot more fish than running a traditional shell running bait that runs horizontal. Oh, get this one in the water here. All right. Wear them out a little bit here. Slow us down a touch. See what we've got. You know, later in the summer, I use my big motor to troll a lot. I think the big motor is an advantage to trolling later on. I think that prop turning is an advantage, you know, especially around after the 4th of July or so, this water greens up. But early in the year, you know, these 24 volt, 36 volt trolling motor systems, they are so nice for pulling crankbaits even. You can pull 2 miles an hour all day long. And it's just so much easier to control the boat, put it on autopilot, and I can turn sharper. There's a lot to like about trolling crankbaits with the bow mount trolling motor. Oh, big walleye. Big walleye, you gotta love that. Oh yeah, look at here he comes. Isn't that cool? The water just greening up. Whoa. Don't like to lift them out of the water like that. See that same bullhead just caught right in its mouth. Come on here. There we go. Oh, look at this. Yeah, that, you know, and the strikes just seem more violent because there's not very much line behind that planer board. There we go. Yeah, that's a great walleye right there. Great fish. Yeah, and these fish, you know, they'll be up in this stuff here, you know, it's all about water temperature, finding these warmer water, and you know, these inside cups, the closer you can get that little bit deeper water, usually 5-6 feet of water or deeper, that's where these fish are gonna be laying. And typically, you know, when they're off, they're right on the bottom. When they're on, you can cast, you can do a lot of different things to catch them, but this is a great way to catch these fish when they don't want to bite. It's been a pretty cold, wet, windy spring. Finally, the sun comes out, that water temperature spikes, and that's when these fish really pile up on these types of spots. When you have unstable weather or water temperatures that are crashing, you're gonna struggle in this type of location. But when you've got the reverse, when you've got warming trends and sunshine, these spots will just keep getting better and better through the spring. Oh yeah, there's a nice walleye. I'm just gonna bring them up. You know, as far as how far to send out the planer board, I keep them as close as possible. In fact, I won't use planer boards unless I feel it gives me an advantage. Typically, clear the water, the more you have to send them out, the more the boat might spook the fish. But for sure, you get later on in the summer, the water temperature warms up, and it seems like you can get away with a lot more as far as running the boat right over the top of the fish. There we go. Great walleye. Not hooked real good, but good enough.